All right, this is Josue Maldonado recording this interview for American History Entrepreneurship, HIUS 360. And I'm talking to John Kramer. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is John Kramer, owner and founder of Stylo Inc.
Right. John is a pretty visible guy here on campus. A lot of people have bought his pens and such. He's just graduated recently with 2 degrees. He's got a lot going on right now. All right. So we're going to start off with the basic section. How did the idea for your business come about?
Well, actually, let's see, I started the business 3 years ago, but I started learning how to handcraft exotic wood and acrylic pens about 6 or 7 years ago from my dad. Just like going every weekend over to his place and making all these really cool products just for fun, never really sold them. And one year, I think it was during the presidential campaign, so it was 26, the end of 2016. I was trying to go on a trip to Washington, D.C. with my cousins and had no spending money at all. So I just decided to get some of my pens that I had made for myself and go door to door selling. And I was able to, within like 2 hours, make all the money I needed for the trip, including airfare, hotels, and extra on top of that. And so decided that it'd be a great way to put myself through college due to my upbringing of not really having much. And so I got the LLC, limited liability company, in, let's see, March of 2017 is when I applied for it, and just kind of took off from there.
All right, that's pretty great. How did you raise funding for your venture if you needed any startup?
So I raised funding just by, well, actually, I just started selling. So first, of course, I had the equipment already. They were gifted to me years and years prior. I didn't have all the equipment necessary, so I used some of my dad's equipment as well. And then I would spend some of my own money just buying the parts to make the pens. And then due to my markups, I was able to get a lot of profit back on each pen. And I just kept doing that one after another. I didn't actually even go out seeking loans. However, I did have people invest in me, business owners and executives who had already purchased from me in the past and were interested in my story and my mission.
Nice. All right. So this kind of ties into what you were talking about there, but how did you build a successful customer base?
So the biggest thing that I tried to do was to focus on the branding aspect of my business, focusing on the why you should purchase from me. Because nowadays consumers aren't concerned about what they're buying; they're concerned about why they should buy and what the company they're buying from is doing that will make them feel good about their purchase. So I started to get that customer base. I first built a ton of transparency where every time I was making a product, I was taking photos of the process, sending it to them personally, including a personal message with each and every order, and also giving generous discounts for them coming back to help with referrals. They would then pass me on between each other, and this trust that was built between the customer and I helped build my consumer base.
Very nice. All right. As far as marketing goes, which tactics have been most successful for you?
Oh, definitely face to face. I've tried doing online marketing, which does work here and there. To give you an example, when I started my business, I think it was May 8th was one of 2017 was when I first uploaded everything I was ready to sell. I had no sales all of the first month, even from doing online advertising. And the second month, I only had 3 orders. So what I started doing was I'd put on a full suit and tie, get a big heavy pen box, and I'd go business to business talking to owners and managers just on busy city streets in Seattle, Everett, Washington area. And because of that face-to-face interaction, where I was able to really relay to them my personal story and the branding of why they should purchase from me, that is what worked the best. And so they would then refer me to networking events where I'd also have more face-to-face contact. And it was really referrals and face-to-face interaction that really sealed the deal for my marketing tactics.
All right, very groundwork based then.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Moving on to personal questions. Can you describe or outline a typical day for you?
Uh, well, when I'm extremely busy, like what I'll have my classes, where I'll be doing classes all day, and then I will go to my shop at night, making pens, filling orders. And then I also have my other job where I work at BWXT. And so I'm quite busy. Can't really give you an exact timeline, but most of the time I don't have a break. But thankfully, just after finishing my graduate or my degrees, I now will have a little bit of peace and quiet as I continue to work.
All right, what keeps you motivated to keep working like this every day?
My personal motivation is to be able to help others and inspire them to be their best self. Growing up, I had a very rough childhood in a very abusive household where we had to go to like food banks every Wednesday, and we were constantly moving back and forth in between families. And so I wanted to make sure that, like, the thing that keeps me going is knowing that if I work hard right now, then I'll be able to make sure that my future family doesn't have to go through the same things that I had to go through. And due to the amazing opportunities and that God has placed in my life, with from starting my business and working hard, another thing that keeps me going and motivated is knowing that if I can really get those opportunities to talk with executives, CEOs, and get my foot in the door of many places that a lot of people can't, then I can take all the information I've learned from them and pass it down onto my peers and help give them the same, or if not more, opportunities that I've received.
Very nice. All right. What is your greatest fear and how do you manage it?
Greatest fear. Huh. Um, I'd say my greatest fear is when I am incapable of helping someone. Um, and so like I've had times in personal life and also business, like where maybe there's an issue that I can't really resolve, and it's something I don't really have a hand in being able to change or control. And so my resolve of that is just trying to humble myself in prayer and giving up those fears to God and just walking away and letting Him do the work.
All right, Roger that. How do you define success?
Hmm. Well, success is really subjective to the person who is searching after, I guess you could say, success. Um, I believe that success is trying to be the best you can be tomorrow, because you're going to find successes in everything you do, whether it be little or like small or big. So I believe success is really figuring out what you're passionate about, what your purpose is, because those passions lead into that purpose of yours. And if you can identify those, then and really plan out like this is what I want to do one day, you'll start seeing small successes that lead into larger ones.
Hmm. Oh, that's more of a process. Would you be able to say, is there a certain point at which you would be able to say that you've made it and that
Oh,
you've
that I've made
accomplished
it?
what you wanted to?
Hmm. Well, I'm not quite sure because I feel like my knowing that I've made it is going to be years down the road when I can be able to say that I'm able to financially provide for my family. Uh, and making sure that they're safe, healthy, and have opportunities that I didn't get to have. So at that point, I guess I would say I've made it, but that's probably like 30 years down the road.
All right. What's been your most satisfying moment in business?
Oh gosh, I've had a lot of a lot of very interesting things happen. Um, it's the most satisfying moment. I would say one that was very moment that was very satisfying, I guess you could say, or really, I guess I could say awesome, was I when I was going business to business, I started learning different tactics for when I was doing face-to-face marketing. Sometimes when I'd walk into a business with a pen case, people would think I was selling something, of which I was. So they would rush me out or not even listen to me. And so I came up with a tactic of where I wouldn't even bring my pen boxes in, and I'd put the pens under my suit, like just a couple here and there. And I'd bring in a leather notebook, and I'd just go asking for business advice from the owners, managers, and executives. And that in turn would get them interested in my story because I was now put in front of them. And then they would actually purchase more than what people were when I brought the box in. And one day I saw this big shiny building, just a ton of glass. I was like, "Ooh, shiny building!" So I turned off the road and I went up. I started walking towards the admin building, and I was always walking with a couple pens in my pocket and my leather notepad. I tripped and fell on the ground. It was like right in front of a couple employees, which was really embarrassing. But I then started, because of that fall, I ended up walking at the same pace to the admin building as an older gentleman. And I went and grabbed the door. I opened it for him. And we started having a small conversation. It only lasted for about 2 minutes. And he was asking why I was there. I was saying I was looking for advice for my startup business and so on and so forth. And he wished me luck. And so he went off, and I went to the front desk, and they couldn't help me at all. So I left, and I was feeling really discouraged. And about 20 minutes later, I got a phone call, and this from the office, which was Primera Blue Cross. It's a huge company worldwide that deals in insurance. And it was an assistant saying that the gentleman I opened the door for wanted to meet with me. And I asked her who it was, and she said he's the chief operating officer of the company, reporting directly to the CEO. And I was like, no way. And um, she set up a meeting. I met with him. He gave me great advice for over a couple hours, um, and I had told him like the processes that I used to make my pens. And at the time, I didn't have all the equipment, which I had stated to you earlier. And so it was very difficult to be independent since I had my dad at the time helping me with some of the pens, and I'd have to drive 30 minutes each way just to be able to make some. And so I got a call later that night where he said, "You know what, John, how much is it going to cost to purchase the equipment you need?" And I told him, and he said, "Okay, I want you to come tomorrow morning at 7 in the morning, and I'm going to write you a check." And I also want to get an order of 50 or 40 pens for our sales staff. And I was just shocked because had been a huge prayer request in the past for myself, and just to kind of get out of that situation and be able to be more independent. And not only did he purchase the 40 pens and write a check for me to get all the machinery that I was missing, but his colleague also purchased an extra 18. So I had a 58 pen sale at once, which was my largest order in one setting. And it was so satisfying that day, knowing what I had, what God had really done for me that day. So I'd say that was probably one of my most satisfying moments in business.
Very nice. So it wasn't the champion cover.
Oh no, no! That was fun being able to be on champion cover, but I've been on TV before and like radio stuff, so that wasn't super satisfying for me. It was cool though.
All right. How has your faith influenced your approach to business? Has there been any opportunities you had to turn down because you didn't feel it was ethical or moral or something like that?
I've had a lot of situations where my faith has come into play or been under attack because most of my marketing methods are face-to-face interaction. So I would be going to all these sale networking events. A lot of them were mixers as well, and I'd have people coming up to me, and some of the pens that I sell actually have one of them is my faith pen, and it says faith, hope, and love, has a cross on it, and a couple other things that I make. Normally make it out of Bethlehem olive wood, and I'd have people like trying to not ask me questions about my faith, but actually attack me in different ways, and either if it was politically or religious wise, and I'd have to step away from them and or tell them that I don't discuss certain aspects, like when I'm in like a business setting, I try to stay away from certain topics. But then if someone is actually inquiring or gets very angry that I'm a Christian, I'll ask them if I can meet with them later on or like set up a meetings one-on-one so we could actually discuss it. Thing is, they never actually end up wanting to discuss. I feel like the biggest role that it's played in business, though, is just being compassionate and not being greedy, I guess you could say, because every success that I make, I don't count it towards myself and my own skills. I count it towards God's opportunities that He's placed in front of me. And I think it's that perspective where my faith has really played into my overall business model.
All right. Well, we're about to wrap this up here. Just one more question. What would you say are the top 3 skills needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
Well, drive would be the first one, I would say. Drive, you have to be very personable, like outgoing, personable, and you have to a skill that if you want to be an entrepreneur that you really need to hunker down on is execution, knowing how to get things done. The reason why people say they're going to do a business or do this or they have this cool idea but they never do it is because ideas are just ideas at the end of the day. They aren't worth anything. Everyone has an idea every single day. Then most of the time your idea actually isn't very original. Someone else has probably come up with it, but the people who actually learn how to execute and get it done are the ones who become noteworthy. So if anyone wants to be an entrepreneur, one, they have to be able to know how to talk with people, like being personable. They need to have a drive that gets them up in the morning and motivates them to push through, because like being an entrepreneur, you work a lot more than an average 8 to 5 job. And you have to, most importantly, be able to execute. So those would be the top 3, I would say.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Kramer.
No problem.
I'll let you get back. Congratulations on graduating.
Thanks.